Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's the Mac, and welcome back to a showcase or a let's play or let's try it out of the Operational Art of War 4. Man, that is such a punchy title there. The Operational Art of War. I mean, it sounds pretty badass. Right, so a few of you guys have been written requests for me to cover this game, and I will do my best. I could say right off the bat here, if any of you guys tuned in and watched this and would like learn the complete game and how it works and everything, you probably find some other YouTubers out there that have covered this game with a lot more knowledge of it. My knowledge is not that extensive. I have played it. I mean, I fooled around with it and stuff, and so I do know some basics, I guess, of the game. Right, so it's Matrix Games version of this, Operational Art of War 4. And Matrix Games even released Operational Art of War 3, which was a very popular title there. And 4 is, as I've gathered, pretty popular too. It has a large following of people playing this game. And there's actually quite a lot of stuff to get online for this. People still creating scenarios and different mods and stuff for this game. This is the pure vanilla version I have now installed right off the website there, with the latest patch. So I think the game is. I think I'm gonna have to cheat here because my knowledge is pretty rusty on this game. But if you look at the Wikipedia here, I mean it's. Came back. I mean, the first version of Operation Art of War came out in 1998 there through Talon Soft, and it was some guy called Norman Krieger, if I remember correctly. Should say here, yeah, no, Norm Koger, sorry, Norm Koger. He's the founder, I think, of this game, and he made them when he was working with Talon Soft there. And so you do have a couple of titles that came out there. I'm not that. I might have actually tried these out back then, but it was something that I never really stuck with me, I guess. So I don't think I played these first titles. I have tried number 3 and before. This kind of game is actually not the kind of war game that really appeals to me. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's kind of hard to explain. So this game is not for the faint-hearted. I would say that right off the bat. It's a very complex game. It's if you like play with everything. I mean, if you really use the full potential of this war engine, it's a pretty complex game. There's a lot of shit in this game. I mean, a lot of rules, a lot of stuff that can happen. It's a very deep game, but I guess you could play it casually as well if you know the rules and stuff, and if you know the basics. But there's a lot of stuff in this game. It's huge. There's a lot of details that comes with this game. So what is it, you might ask, the Operational Art of War? Well, it's if we look at the website right up there of the Matrix website there, it's an operational game. I mean, it's some of the scenarios are huge in this game. Massive. I mean, whole theaters spanning years and stuff. So it's not that. I mean, you could have small. There are some small scenarios, small-ish, and there are some huge ones. So it's sort of grand warfare. I mean, it's NATO symbols to start off with. It's like moving your counters around. The graphics are pretty good. I got to say. I mean, it's a lot better than many other of these hardcore war games out there. I mean, the graphics are good, and so it's mainly battalion, regiment, and division. I think you can have a small units as squads and platoons as well, and companies. Companies is could be quite common as well, but squad and platoon sized is not that common. Mostly it's company and upwards in size of units moving around, and so it's like a basic. I mean, it's a real hardcore war game to start off with. There, I mean. But the cool thing about it, it actually covers a pretty long span of conflicts there. As you can see, the old one was between 39 and 1955, and then they made modern battles covering 56 to 2000. The Operational Art of War 4 covers everything. I think it can go back to the 19th century. I mean, you could play some of the Napoleonic Wars and stuff. I mean, there's the scenarios covering all the way back there to modern day, basically, battles. So, pretty cool. It's all implemented in this huge war engine, and it covers. You can play these. I mean, any kind of conflict from that. It's very deep as well. There's lots of details. The best thing to actually show it is to jump back into the game here. So this is what it looks like when you fire it up, and there's actually some music here. It's pretty loud. So I've actually turned the music off because it's like a little rocking beat going on there in the background. But it's pretty loud, so I just turned it off. So you can make your own scenarios in this game, scenario editors. Play online. Haven't tried it. It's probably possible. If you go, I mean, the Matrix games forums are really good. I mean, they are very good covering many of their games. It's a pretty huge following of people there that are pretty active forums. There's some really good section there of this particular game. There's like scenario lists, and people are actually, you can download a shitload more scenarios there that people have made. And there's even conversions from the Operational Art of War 3 to 4, and you can download them. So the game comes with something like 200 scenarios already. I mean, there's a lot to play in the core game, but there's, as I said, lots made in the community as well. So if you go for new game, you will be greeted by this. And as I said, this game it's not very accessible to people. I mean, the first time I fired this up and I look at it, I was like lost completely. The game comes with a manual, and the manual, it's pretty heavy reading there. I think it's something like 170 pages plus. But if you want to be a badass in this game, and I mean learn all the mechanics and know all the, because it's just there's lots of things. It's not only land combat that you're moving your forces around. I mean, you got aerial combat as well. You got to plan and use your air strikes and your air power, and there's also sea power. I mean, they got you can actually play like battles in I mean the like battles in the ocean. I mean, big ass battles, you know. They got rules for that in this new one. If you look at the the features, they got naval warfare features. And there's also this new supply system that's been implemented in this game. And this will probably mostly be for people that have actually played the previous titles. They will know that there's an update there. So, I mean, more than 200 scenarios, yeah, it's huge. And new supply system there, yeah. So, what you got to do here is, I mean, you got to select a folder, and this is where it all comes in. These are all the different theaters of operation in the game, basically. I mean, you got custom graphics. I'm not sure what that is. Custom graphics. So this could be. Looks like it's actually scenarios here. Italian versus Ethiopia there. The Battle of Adua, 1896 there. Okay, custom graphics. Maybe it's the people who made the scenarios actually also implemented like graphics, their own graphics for it. Could be. All right, so there's you can see there's some many in the early 1914 there. Yeah, so you got hypothetical studies, you got modern Asia, modern Middle East, modern miscellaneous, modern and NATO versus Warsaw Pact, pre-World War One. These are the oldest ones. Tutorials, very important. Version Française, I guess that's French versions. What happens if I click there? Yeah, so it's all in French. Operation Lion de Mer, 2004 there. World War One, World War Two, Asia, East Front, Mediterranean, World War Two, miscellaneous, and World War Two, West Front. Okay, you can actually go like this as well. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Right, so let's go back to so the tutorials. Let's start there, right? So there's a couple of tutorials that comes with the game. I have played Anonymous Heroics and tutorial so far to sort of learn the basics of the game. And these are classed as tutorials as well. The Kasserine. Right, I think the spot is the complexity here. So it says 1.72. This one has actually 0.00. I'm not sure why. Tannenberg 2.3. So that's sort of a measure of the actual complexity. So this one here, this is actually depicting the Korean War. There, the North Korea invading South Korea. It's 131.46. So the complexity of this tutorial is pretty big, actually. There's lots of stuff in there, but it comes with documentation that's actually in the game folder there. You can follow the what to do, basically. It's a sort of a written tutorial there. So this is a pretty big. Anonymous, this one is also quite extensive, but sort of easier to follow there. So actually I should have had the folder there. Okay, gonna have to do this. Yeah, so I should have had this open here. Right, so this is what it looks like when you install it. So you will find it in scenarios. If you don't go in there, you have another thing to mention as well is that for every single, not every single, but for many of these scenarios, there is actually some text as well. I mean, you can read this text here. This is very important text. You always need to read this when you play a scenario. It tells you a lot of information. And there could be some extra documentation in the folder as well. So you got to check that. So for instance, if I open up this tutorial folder here, you have this tutorial for the this is for the the Korean War ones. If I open that up, for instance, so this is like a Welcome to Talonsoft tutorial for Operational Art of Warfare. So this is, I think it's kind of old, but they have updated the pictures and stuff. So this is kind of this was very good actually to play through. You learn a lot of the basics and what units are and movement and things like that, but it doesn't take up anything else regarding like naval warfare or air support and stuff. I mean, there's some small things about it, but not a lot. But it explains a lot of the detail. We'll have a look in the game later on, and you guys can see. It's a very complex game. I found it very complex. I mean, some people might not, but I found it pretty complex and hard to grasp. But once you get into it, there is some sort of element of addiction to this game. It certainly is. So this was good. Anonymous Red. This is a real read-through here. You sort of just basically follow this by the letter, and it's sort of helping you out how to implement a sort of defense versus an attack, for instance. That's the strength of this tutorial. It could sometimes be a bit fuzzy, and you might not always get the same results as this tells you. So that's a problem too. And you sort of get lost in the fight because you're not actually having the same results that's actually explained in here. That's one thing I found confusing. I haven't tried the Tannenberg, but these are, I guess, written. This is very serious stuff. Look at this. Someone actually did a lot of work here. You can tell. I mean, look at all this. There's a lot of information here. You got like a table of contents depicting The Russians in the Operation Art of War, Tannenberg 14 scenario there. So it really goes through the forces. We might digging in and stuff, yeah. Might not actually tell you step by step what to do here. It sort of more explains tactics and stuff. Okay, actually it does. Here it goes, turn 1 deployment there. This could be a good one to try out and play. I haven't tried this one yet, so that one is interesting. Tannenberg. I mean, they're all in the tutorials, so they should be, I guess, good for that. You got Kasserine 43. Look at this. This is pretty serious stuff as well. It's 13 pages there. So sort of this would be good to play through as well. Yeah, I'm gonna have a go with this, probably off camera. I want to play like a real scenario for you guys. So see if I get whooped. Tannenberg. Okay, there's different documentations here for that. I don't know why. There's 2 different ones. Yeah, so you got that going there. This is very important to actually just dive into the game if you don't want to sit down for a couple of hours and read the manual. Right, so yes, if you, for instance, if you go into, let's say I want to play some West Front World War II stuff here. All right, this is what they got. All the scenarios there. Sorry, yeah, it's quite a lot. I mean, they got some huge stuff here. It's nuts. For instance, Second Battle of Kharkov there. The whole second battle there. It's complexity is not that high, but it spans from the 5th 12 to 527 there, 1942. And look at this is another interesting aspect here. You're going to find the scale of the game kind of confusing. I found it very confusing. I mean, if you play a lot of Panzer campaigns and like squad battles and games from War Game Design Studios, this is like on a completely different scale. I mean, look, 5 kilometers on one hex there, for instance. I mean, some battles can be pretty huge, and one turn is a whole day, for instance. And then you got one turn can sometimes be a whole week as well, which is nuts. So it's very. This is very important information to read, so you know what the hell's going on here. Right. What else? Right. So for instance, I chose that World War II West Front. Yeah. So there's separate documentations for many of these battles that you need to read. So for instance, if I took the Second Battle of Kharkov, the 42 there, I'm gonna have to look at the folder and see if I can find it here. Am I in the right folder? West Front. Yeah. Some of them doesn't, and so what do we got? Am I blind? Okay, what the hell? Hold on here. Second Battle of Kharkov there. Okay. I mean, the scenario should be in there. Second Battle of Kharkov. All right. So look. Does it start with an S? Sea Lion? No. St. Louis. 2 weeks. Overlord. What the hell? I can't find it. Okay, I can't find it for some reason. Oh, am I in the right folder here? Yeah. All right, let's take something else. What about this Barbara AGS Hungarian campaign? 44 German PO. All right, so let's see that AGS. Okay, some of them probably are not in here because there's no separate documentation for them. So there is one for the Ardennes, for instance. That could be the case. So And actually, some of them could be in that separate folder. For instance, World War II miscellaneous here. Oh. There he is. Yeah, we got it there. Okay. Okay, maybe I was in the wrong folder. I think. Jeez. All right. So there you have Ardennes, right? So if you pick that, look at that. That's a pretty big. That's the Battle of the Bulge there. So it's complexity 672.25. It's pretty high complexity there, and it spans up to the 14th of January there. 12-hour turns, 2.5 clicks. So that's doable. There's lots of information here. So it tells you the time scale, the unit scales, the battalion and regimental level. It's 60 turns, and it's actually playable all modes, which means you can play either the Germans or the Americans, and there is actually the AI is programmed for both sides, or you can play head to head or play by email and stuff. But it says here that it was designed and tested with the assumption it would be played as the Germans versus the Allied computer. But it says you could play in all modes. So that's and you got please read the accompanying documentation folder. Yeah. So this is what I was trying to get at here. So if you open that, look at that. You have a separate piece of documentation that tells you. Probably hints and tips on what to do, and programmed opponent. PO means programmed opponent. The scenario was designed with bias towards the human player as a German versus the Allied PO, but it is playable as Allied side as PO or PBM. Yeah, so lots of different information here, and that's with many of the scenarios. So Aracot example 44. You got it here. There's actually no there isn't. Oh, there's actually a PDF as well. That's nice for the Ardennes one. Yeah, so Aracot, there's for instance, here's no extra documentation. So this is what you get here, and this is what you read to understand the scenario there. This is a very small one. It's 0.10. So that's how it works basically, and. They got some huge ones here, man. They've got some massive, like for instance, if you take Mediterranean, let's take that for instance. They have the whole, look at this. Campaign for North Africa. From 1940 there to 1943. 44,882 complexities. That is a massive scenario. 5 clicks a hex, 3.5 days a turn. It's the Desert War. So, lots of documentation here to read. And this should be, there should be probably lots to read in this folder as well. For instance, if I go back, Mediterranean there. Yeah, look at this. You have the campaign North Africa there. I mean, this is separate documentation for that, sure. Look at this. That is 24 pages. So you can tell this is a pretty serious game, man. It is a very serious game. And lots of research. And people who play this really go in for it, you know. So let's just... in this episode, I'm just sort of presenting the game, I guess. And I have to try and choose something to play. I'm really rusty in this game still. But if we fire up, for instance, something that I know about, like the tutorial, this is also a very important button right here. This is where you select. It's very hard to see, but this is, if you hover the mouse over it, you can see down here that it's actually selected on 2-player hot seat now. So if you press it once, it says play by email. And here you have the communist computer versus human player selected. And if you press again, you have United Nations computer versus human player versus so that you are actually commanding the North Koreans there. And that is what this is recommended for you to play, this tutorial here. So I'm not going to play it now. I'm just going to fire it up so you can see what the game looks like as well. You got game options here, right? So this is a whole different chapter here. These are usually preset by the scenario designer. If you choose your own here, if you fire a scenario up, it could be that the designer has actually overriding your options because they feel that some of these should be on in their current scenario there. And look at this, even more. So there's a lot of stuff here. So let's just fire it up. You can see what it looks like here. Right, so the commies begin here. Begin turn. So this turn 1, 25th of June, 1950 there. Right, so you will always get, you might get reinforcements. It says you have reinforcements. The game always starts with a situation briefing there. So tells you the calendar, what time it's taking place. It's actually 52 turns in this. It's a pretty big scenario. And it's one turn is actually a full week. So the game should end on June 17th, 1951 there. Yeah. 15 kilometers a hex. And this tells you about the climate, attrition divider. This is all very important, I guess, for if you know what it is. You can expand this as well to the next page. For instance, tells you about your forces. Your proficiency is 75. We'll go into that. That's this here, basically. The overall force proficiency. The force supply stockpile is 25. It's how you get reinforcements and stockpiles for your units. Supply enhancement due to force transferred assets. So these are all not really know what they all mean, but this is all very important, I guess. Tells you basically your supply level and forces and what kind of zone of controls you got and stuff. It tells you about the special weapons, if there's nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, and there's none of that in this. And it tells you about the theater you're in. So our theater reconnaissance capability is 10. It's pretty bad. The North Koreans didn't have that extensive air force. And so they mostly do their reconnaissance on ground there. And they have a rail transport capacity is pretty good. There was a lot of rail works and stuff there. Our rail destruction chance is 100, so that's probably good. Victory. So enemy held objectives value is 100. Enemy loss penalty is 0. Friendly held objective value. So this tells you what you're currently. Our victory level is 0 of 200. It's still a draw because the war hasn't started, of course. And then they have boundaries here. Total on map objectives are 200. Draw when less than equal to 40. Marginal victory is greater than 40. Significant victory 80. Overwhelming victory 120 there. So it tells you about your victory levels there. We're back to the calendar there. Okay, so this is also new. Situation reports are implemented in the game if they are scripted. It tells you sort of an anecdote of history or something that's going on here. So June 25th, 1950 there. Communist forces invade South Korea. UN calls on member nations to aid South Korea. US Congress authorizes active duty for reserve forces. So, and here we go. We're in the game. So this is the default zoom in here. This is actually the closest zoom in. You can tell the graphics are good, man. I like them. I mean, it's definitely good enough for a war game. I mean, you got some really nice textures here. There's woods. You got rivers. You got mountains, sort of terrain there. You got rails. These are your NATO units, your encounters. You can zoom out one step. You have a more overview here. So this is what's in the map here. You have forces from China here that I don't think you can use yet, but they will arrive probably later on. And you have Russian forces here that probably can get activated and thrown in. You have objectives. And of course, the North Korean forces all along the DMZ, the 38th parallel there. And it goes down to the Gwangju, Treyon, Poang, all these Pusan here. So the North Koreans actually were successful there, and they pushed down, and they were sort of. I think they only had this area left in the southeast here, and this is when the UN and the US made that counterattack. I think they landed behind as well with forces, and I'm a bit rusty on the North Korean actually, but something like that. And then it was also a debate whether to use the nuclear bombs as well during this, but it never really happened. So you got United Nations Air Force. They have air power. So you can zoom out one more. I think it can zoom out a lot. It can zoom out even. Yeah, this is look at that. That's the max zoom out there. So, right, just a few basics, I guess. So there's just a couple of things to keep in mind when you play this game. We'll probably get more into it when I actually play a scenario. But for instance, if you take a counter here, you click it. When there's this gold around, it means it's selected. But it can be tricky. Because if you look at here, there's actually more than one counter here. So if you click it once, the North Korean 9th Division 60th Infantry is actually chosen there. And if you press it again, it's actually the 62nd Infantry now, the 61st, and the 60. 60, 62nd, and 61st. So there's actually three. I think there are battalions. I'm not sure about the three here. It could be the battalion. I think it is. Company is 2. It says division there, but I'm not sure it actually is a whole division. It's part of the 9th Division, but it's a 61st Infantry there. So I think there are companies. Right, so there's certain things to know. I mean, this is a NATO symbol for just pure infantry. This is a pure infantry. So if I take these, let's just take the first one, the 60th there. So there's an attack and a defense number here. And that little dot means how they're actually set on taking casualties and how committed they are to the fight. This green here is sort of depicting the overall status of the unit. So you have this as well. You have this is the health bar of the unit. Sort of, this will decrease as the unit is in battle, fight and stuff. Here you have that attack, and it's actually 8 plus 2. Why is it 8 plus 2 there? 8. It says attack strength 8, but there's a plus 2 there. Is that on everyone's? This one is 7 plus 2, 8 plus 2. I'm not sure why they get a bonus. Okay, this is defense, and this is movement points here. And here you have the overall proficiency of the units. It's pretty low. It's only 33, so that could be that it's kind of a green unit, just been formed up. The proficiency is not that high. The health is good. I mean, they got a readiness and health of 100%, and they are resupplied at 100% as well. And it's current combat round 1. Yeah, so this is also an interesting, and this is where I sort of got lost in the game. This is sort of this depicts your whole turn basically before it's over, and it's divided into different segments. Everything sort of takes time. It's sort of to simulate everything you do in a game turn. Sort of is supposed to be happening simultaneously. So this is sort of it counts down. If you move units and commit into battles and stuff, everything is taking time, and these are all rounds. There's 10 rounds to a turn, I guess. So you got to keep that in track. This is pretty. I've read somewhere this is very vital for the game actually to get the hang of. So that is something that you need to know if you know right want to play really strategically and know what the hell you're doing. This little icon here means that these guys can actually board a train because they're in a city there with and there's railroad running through there. So if you press that, these guys will actually board the train. I mean, only the one that you have selected. You have to do it for every single unit. So this is air power, I think, air interdiction, and so we have 0. They have 10. They have a bit better. No one has lost any units. I mean, any planes yet. And this is the basic command for the whole for the game, basically. This is where you skip units. This is interesting. If you press this, yeah, so there's this quite a deep depth to all the units here. So if I press that now, this is called unit report. You actually get a very detailed what this unit actually consists of. The Communist North Korea 9th Division, 60th Infantry. It's ready for orders. It's untried, supplied, and wait. So it's untried. That means it's sort of a green division. I mean, a green force. That's why probably the readiness is so bad, because they're not battle hardened or anything. So the capabilities, you have attack 10 and defend 8, and the movement of 28. The proficiency is 33, yeah, we know this already here. So this is kind of cool here. Here it actually tells you what this actually consists of. There's 50 out of 54 rifle squads here. If you press them as well, you get even more detail. It tells you anti-personnel strength, anti-armor, defense strengths. This equipment moves slowly. This equipment is particularly agile as well, okay. You have some machine gun squads. They're using equipment from the 30s. You have medium machine guns. Quite a lot. You have 60mm mortars. You have heavy mortars. They're actually equipped with heavy mortars. 120mm mortars there. There's actually 6 of them. So they have good anti-personnel, of course. They have bombardment. Yeah, this is important. So the artillery also plays part how far they can go. So I mean, they have 8 kilometers, but it's in the game only 1 hex. You've got shell weight and stuff there. So yeah, they have 45mm anti-tank guns. Soviet Union 33, you know, the old guns there. And they have 82mm mortars. These are Russian mortars as well. And they have 76mm guns. These are common equipment. They're probably Russian guns there. So they have a range of 1 hex as well. And trucks to transport the guns and stuff. So that's what they got here. So they got artillery, defense, all the characteristics of this unit, and foot movement, and it only has a reconnaissance rating of 2%. They can board trains. I just did it now. Yeah, so they're boarded. You can disembark them. Dismount? What does this mean? Toggle unit between mounted and dismounted. Okay. So I guess they're riding in their trucks now or something. Mobile. Yeah, this is also something that you need to go in later on, I guess. This is where if they're tactical reserve or local reserve, they can dig in. So if they're tactical reserve, for instance, if you have a line here, you put tactical reserves in the back. If the enemy smashes through your lines, you have a tactical reserve that would automatically counterattack and move in to fill in the gaps if the enemy breaches your defense, basically. Local reserve, I'm not really sure. That means probably they're sort of in a garrison mode. And here you can set the limit losses, ignore losses, minimize losses. So you see this little thing here, it goes 1. If you have limit losses, it's got 2. And if you ignore your losses completely, you have 3 there. So something to keep in mind there. Right, so that's what these buttons mean here. You can move formations as well, not only units. If I press that, yeah, I'm switching through units. If I press this, I'm probably jumping from formations. Okay. Interesting. North Korea First Division. Okay, so that, what does it say? It says current formation. Okay. Yeah, tells you what they're all part of the same. You can quick find them basically as well. You have the order of battle. Some units will actually get a penalty if they're not part of the same division, if they fight with them. And some are independent, which means they can be used anywhere and integrate without penalties in different formations. Here you have, so you see you have an independent units here. Some of these are independent. So lots of things to keep track of, man. Air units, we got first air and second air. So we have, press the first air. We've got the first air somewhere. I could bring that up. They got Yak 3s and LA 7s and Jack 9s. This is what the whole Air Force, that First Air Wing is, what their units are. These guys are veterans apparently. So even if you press the plane there, you know it'll tell you it's the fighter bomber, for instance. These Jack 3s. These are fighter bombers as well, and the Jack 9s are fighter bombers there. So let's see. If I go to the second wing there, IL-10s, fighter bombers, some World War II planes there. Yeah, these are your planned combats. These are your results. That is, you can turn the icons off, so you can have a look at the map. Oh yeah, that's a quick button for the manual here. Go in and have a look at that. It's pretty extensive. It's well written, I think, but a heck of a lot to read in this scenario. It's huge. Let's get back to the game. You got map icons, so you can have a look at supply levels. Yeah, these are your supplies, and these are your supply points. Obviously, along roads and railroads, you have better supply than if you go off the beaten track there. You get weather. You can have a look at the map, how the weather is looking. Here you have objectives on top, on bottom, or hidden. Airfields, lots of different things here. Reports, like, for instance, expected reinforcements. Coming in there, turn 2. We have a 7th Infantry, part of the 12th Division, 14th Division. So there's stuff coming in. More Air Force coming in there towards the end. And withdrawals as well. We have tanks. They're going to be arriving. Yeah, these they arrived here. This was my current reinforcements there. So you can also right click and choose quick use things here. These are T-34/85s, man, with motorcycles for reconnaissance. Some old T-34s there. Yeah, so they arrived, and you can move them down and fight there in the front. Yeah, so different ways to fight and stuff in this game as well. I'll probably go over that when I actually play a scenario. I'm still very rusty on it. As I said, this game is... I'm still learning this game. So if any of you guys are going to be watching this Let's Play of this game and know a lot of stuff, please give me hints and tips on how to actually do certain things, because I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes. Right, so I guess it's going to be covering the first... I actually went into stuff that I wasn't supposed to. This is just basically going to showcase the game a bit, what it looks like. But going to probably be going into more stuff as I play along. I'm going to try and find a good scenario to play that I can actually handle, and not something that is too huge to do. There's a lot of tactics in this game that I just don't know. Like, for instance, how to keep track of this and know what your what you can do and when your turn runs out and stuff. So we're gonna have a look at that. But this sure is a fun game, and a few guys watching my channel have actually asked me to do a sort of a let's play of this game, so I will do it. So we're gonna end the video here actually, and in part 2 there we're gonna be I'm gonna have to decide what kind of battle to play, and we're gonna kick it off there and see how it goes. And we're probably going to be diving into more stuff in the game there as that battle progresses there. So I want to thank you guys for watching, man, and I'll see you in the next part, I guess. Have a good one.